Hello and good morning, good evening, wherever you guys are and whenever you're listening to us, and also whether you're listening to us or watching. We are your hosts. I'm Robin.
I'm Michelle.
And Fit Girl Boss Podcast, or FGB Podcast, is all about highlighting some pretty badass women who are CEOs, business founders, owners, whether of a small business or a big corporation, but also prioritize their fitness, nutrition, overall health, self-care. We'll be talking in this podcast about how we can marry a busy lifestyle and a healthy lifestyle together to achieve anything. And also the importance of how taking care of your physical and mental self through nutrition can have a positive effect on the bottom line of your business. This podcast is brought to you by BODZii, an online nutrition and lifestyle coaching company dedicated to helping female entrepreneurs heighten their health and fitness levels, all while running a business. You can always visit us at www.bodzii.com.
Nice.
Got my hair in a center part. I feel like a Gen Z.
Oh yeah, I'm total millennial. That's why, I got a side part, and there was something other funny that I do too. Side part, and what's the other thing?
Skinny jeans.
Skinny jeans, yeah.
So Carolina and I have been at war for the past few days over text message. I guess she kind of just in the past few days has discovered this social war between millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm a younger millennial and she's an older Gen Z. And so there are a lot of things that we do that kind of transfer over into different each other one. And
yeah.
But then she got on TikTok and she was showing these hilarious videos of Gen Z is just bashing the shit out of millennials. And it's so funny because a lot of it is so true. And what are we always say that we're adulting.
Oh yeah.
We love coffee and wine, which is absolutely hilarious because we've talked about that at least 6 times in the past 2 episodes of our podcast.
I know. It's gotta come up. It's so funny and it's so true. But I wouldn't have thought you were a millennial.
Yeah, which is hilarious because we were looking it up, the age. Millennials, the youngest millennial is 27 or 26 right now. So I'm 4 years in. And the oldest millennial is 40 something, mid 40s right now.
Yeah.
And then Gen Z is the oldest Gen Z, I guess, is 26. And the youngest one is I don't know. Is there a new one? Who's being born right now?
Yeah. I don't know. And that's funny. Yeah. I'm on the older spectrum of millennials, right? And I'm almost on the cusp of am I a millennial or am I not? But
because the other one is, what is the one above that? Zennials or something, or Gen Y?
Yeah. But then there's supposedly this I'm
gonna look this up.
In between group of millennials and the one above it. I can't remember what it is. And I fall into kind of that group.
Yeah. So millennial is 81 to 96.
See, I'm 82.
Oh yeah. You're on the cusp.
I'm on the cusp. And there's a name. We've created our own names for ourselves.
Which is hilarious. Gen X was born between 65 and 80.
So yeah, these are huge.
Yeah. And then Gen Y. Okay. Gen Y and millennials are the same.
Yeah.
Oh, Gen Z is the newest generation. Okay, cool.
So, and then is it Gen?
Well, that's what it says. So when was this article written though? I think Gen Z is this one, this article was written in, this year. So I don't know if there's a new one yet because it says Gen Z is a newest generation born between 97 and 2012, 2015, which was weird. That's a big gap. They're currently between 6 and 24 years old. So what are the 1-year-olds?
So Dylan is a Gen Z and he's on the lowest Gen Z or Z. Why am I saying Z?
I don't know. It just flows better.
Are you American too?
No.
Just because Carolina was.
I think Carolina says it all the time, Gen Z, and I just.
Oh, okay. Because I was chirping her about the mile, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm American."
Okay, so yesterday I went on a bit of a tear on my social, talking about something called adrenal fatigue, and it got me thinking about a lot of things. So Doug, my boyfriend, he approaches me in the kitchen yesterday, and he kind of got mad. Not mad. He was like questioning why I was like on this tangent, and he took it from such a funny approach. He's like, you know, you can't be so aggressive like on social media. Like, what if you're hurting somebody's feelings who like think adrenal fatigue is a real thing? And I'm like, yeah, like I get it, and I don't mean to. If anybody took offense to like, and I don't think I was that aggressive, but like he's totally right, because there are a lot of people out there, obviously, that think adrenal fatigue is, you know, a legitimate diagnosis.
Right.
And I was like, no, like I'm just passionate about educating people and like letting people know what's real and what's not real, because the people who are out there roaming around talking about how adrenal fatigue is a real thing are the people that are confusing people.
Yeah.
Like they're just spreading misinformation that is leading to a lot of people not acting in a way that is ultimately conducive to whatever their goals are.
Right.
Yeah.
And let me just ask you, was it more the adrenal fatigue diagnosis that set you off, or was it more quote unquote her cures for this adrenal fatigue?
I think it was, you're totally right. Good question. So it was the cures that I think was more so set me off. And that's funny you say that, because I remember sitting right beside Doug when he was listening to this woman talk, and she started saying like adrenal fatigue this, adrenal fatigue that, and I was like, oh God, here we go. And I wasn't really like, you know, set off by it at that point. And then she's like, and here are some things that you can do. You know, you need to do these things regularly if you want to have any chance at making sure that you are regulating your hormones and blah, blah, blah. They are. Put salt in your water. And at that point I was like, no, this needs to stop. And yeah, so I think you're right. I think it's just like the prescription, if you will, of what she was telling people to do. But what it more so got me thinking about, and I was thinking about this when I was on my walk yesterday, and I was talking to this with Carolina actually this morning, is like, why are these terms, and I'll call them hype terms, like adrenal fatigue, metabolic damage, like detoxification, they're so popular. But all of them too can be related back to stress and uncontrolled stress levels or chronic stress levels. And things like metabolic damage and adrenal fatigue come from or have a huge part in having chronic elevated levels of stress. But the funny thing about stress is that it's sort of this like ambiguous thing. And I did a post about this on my Instagram today, and this got me thinking about it even more, where we know it exists. We know it has all these horrendous effects on us, but it's also sort of this like large, ominous beast that doesn't really manifest itself in one particular way.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, when you have a cold, you have very specific symptoms, right? They're maybe limited to 5 or 10 things. I don't know, runny nose, headache, cough, blah, like, you know, the symptoms that are associated with having a cold. When you have something like strep throat, for example, it's even more limited and acute with regards to the symptoms. But then you have stress, which is just a fucking disaster. And it's like, there are emotional symptoms, there's physical symptoms, there's behavioral symptoms. And it's so difficult to pinpoint stress as being the actual root cause of something. And so it's not like you're going to a doctor and they're sending you home with a prescription for stress. Right? And so I feel like because of this ambiguity of it, people like to attach a reason to it just to make sense of it. Yeah. And so blaming something like adrenal fatigue or metabolic damage can give you this sense of understanding and an explanation for all this like ambiguity. that comes from what stress is, because it is such a massive monster.
Right. That's a really good point, to kind of put a label on it. But I think we also just generally like to overcomplicate things.
Yes. Right.
Um,
Because if
and
it's complicated, and this is what I thought about a lot too, if it's complicated, it gives us a reason not to execute.
right. It's a built-in excuse.
Right.
I think we generally just want to overcomplicate things because exactly, it gives us an excuse. It gives us an out. And what we also should preface this with is that there are serious illnesses,
Absolutely.
that are real and do affect people. But then where it gets annoying and complicated for our job, is when you get somebody coming in and saying, drink your chamomile tea and all your life's problems are going to go away. Because we then in our heads create this to-do list. And if we don't check all those boxes in those to-do lists, we feel like it's not going to be cured.
Absolutely.
So then it just manifests into this thing bigger than it actually is, when deep down we know the foundation of sleeping 7 to 8 hours, drinking enough water, your movement, doesn't matter what type of movement it is. Those are the things that are actually, we should be ticking the boxes off on.
Totally. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And you're totally right. I'm glad you covered that, right? Like, it's not to belittle anybody's serious, because you're right. There are serious cases out there. There are cases that you do need extra professional help from an MD or a dietitian. And that's exactly why we work with dietitians, right? It takes an army sometimes to help somebody. So we have Julie Cole in the waiting room, ready to hop in on this conversation with us. I am very, very excited to have her on. Michelle, I'm going to let Michelle actually kind of take over her introduction here a little bit, because Michelle was the one that set up this interview. So yeah, Michelle, take it away.
We are so excited today to record this week's Family Day FGB because of our guest. We have Julie Cole, who is the co-founder of Mabel's Labels. Now, if you have kids, the chances are pretty high that every item your child owns of any value has a Mabel's Labels with their name on it, and usually a cool little graphic to go along beside it. If you don't have kids or don't frequently lose your own items, maybe I need some. Mabel's Labels are durable, waterproof name labels for all your kids' stuff. They are safe for laundry and dishwashers, which is key for the amount of times things need to be washed. Mm-hmm. Also provide an easy, quick solution for parents who need to make sure all of their children's items are properly labeled. Kids and their belongings are super expensive, and they tend to lose a lot of stuff. Enter Mabel's Labels. So if you Google Julie, here's what you'll find. Julie Cole is a recovered lawyer. She calls herself a recovered lawyer, mom of 6, and co-founder of Mabel's Labels. She has helped her company bring her product to a worldwide market, gain media recognition, and win countless awards. Julie is a passionate entrepreneur, published author, and sought-after speaker. She is no stranger to the media, having appeared on NBC's The Today Show, HNL's Raising America, Breakfast Television, The Marilyn Dennis Show, CP24, and now most famously, I might add, is the FGB podcast.
Plug!
As a blogger and writer, her articles have appeared in the Huffington Post, Today's Parent, the Globe and Mail, Prophet Magazine, Working Mother Magazine, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Power Moms, and numerous websites. When she's not juggling her busy family and professional life, Julie is an engaged community member, serving on boards and volunteering. She's passionate about women's issues, mentoring young entrepreneurs, and social justice.
So Michelle and I reached out to Julie because at the end of the day, she's a boss. She's super busy. She has so many things on the go, and we want to be able to pick her brain on not only how she started her business, how she's maintaining it, but also how she's maintaining herself and her sanity while she's doing all of these different things, and how she's able to prioritize her and her health and her self-care, living such a chaotic life. So without further ado, let's bring her on.
Hey.
Hi.
Although this is a podcast, right? So.
Podcast. We do post them on YouTube, but we don't we mostly just put it on YouTube as just to have another place where it lives. But the most people are listening to it on iTunes or Spotify.
It's always am I supposed to have radio face or video face?
Listen, I'm wearing like a full-on matching jumpsuit and
I'm like business on the top, party on the bottom.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's the COVID way.
Yeah. Where are you right now, Julie?
I'm at the Mabel's Labels office.
Where's that? Is it close to home for you?
It is. I live in Burlington and it's in Hamilton.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too bad at all.
Not at all. And honestly, because COVID, we've got really skeleton staff here. So a few people in production, but it's pretty quiet. I only come in kind of once a week.
Yeah.
I work from home mostly. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm really glad to be here today. Just by way of background, a little bit about me is I'm the co-founder of Mabel's Labels, a company started about 17 years ago. And we're all about labeling kids' belongings so they don't end up in the lost and found. That was mostly the thing we cared about before, but now we really care about kids labeling their stuff so they're not having germy mix-ups in these COVID times. So we've done a real shift in how we're thinking about our products. I'm also a mom of 6 and a parenting blogger and a parenting contributor.
Are you Superwoman, actually? Is that your side gig?
If you opened up your blazer, would there be a big mess?
I actually remember meeting somebody for the first time. They're like, "Oh, you're not a cyborg."
Oh, you're not. Where's your buttons? Where are they?
Yeah, right.
I know.
No, but I got to tell you though, I should tell you that my kids are now older. My youngest is 11. I have 3 way university, so it's gotten a lot easier.
I was going to say, I actually came across Julie in a local Facebook group. It's called Burlington Together because we both live in Burlington. And you had made a posting about female entrepreneurs. And I think you were trying to source female-owned businesses for merch.
Right. You're right. Right. Okay. So yeah, that would have been, so I do a monthly parenting segment on CH Morning Live. And for this month of February, what I want to do is I'm doing a segment on how we can involve and celebrate International Women's Day, which is of course March 8th, with our children. So, I want to talk about events you can go to, books you can read. And then I wanted to, kind of teach them to support women's businesses and then showcase some women's businesses and maybe some feminist merch.
Yeah. And what I loved was I saw that, and obviously we're all about the female entrepreneurs over here. So I just sent you a message, and without hesitation, you were like, yeah, sure.
Why not?
You didn't even make me work for it.
Make me work for it. I always say yes, and then I figure it out.
Yes, I love that.
That's very similar attitude over here. Michelle, you want to start a podcast? Robin, yep, next day. Let's record it.
Well, I have to admit, I was a little surprised that you're like, how are you on Thursday or whatever to record? I'm like, okay.
Okay. It's like, I want to get t-shirts made that are just like hashtag get shit done, because it's like, let's just go and get it done and figure it out,
Well, and it's funny, you make the comment, the cyborg, superwoman stuff, whatever, but you do realize, I'm sure you guys have had this experience yourselves, that it's the old, if you want to get something done, you ask a busy person to do it, right?
Right. 100%. Absolutely.
Totally.
And more, what is that saying? Like the more, the busier you are, the more time you have.
Yeah. Right. Yes, because you get more productive and you're more efficient and all those sorts of, you learn all those things, right? And, people are always like, well, how do I, like, how did you do like me time? How did you get enough me time? I'm like, look, if you want, like, I don't crave a lot of that, but if you want like a lot of me time, just don't start a business and have 6 kids.
Right.
Like, honestly, if you want my advice, that'd be it.
You're totally right. And then that's what I'm finding. Like I mean, you rarely find, I mean, I'm sure maybe we'll come across one, but in my experience, I have yet to come across a female entrepreneur that is like you said, craves that extensive me time, because it's just not really how we're wired, right? Totally, we take care of ourselves, and I would love to kind of direct this conversation into that sense and how you take care of yourself. But it's not like we don't need full days. We don't need, like, we'd rather be busy and productive and on the go.
Well, and it's how we define our me time, right? Like, so I'm not, like, me time is not maybe what traditionally people consider me time. Me time would be like this, like this is me time. Going to the office, right? Or, like that's or when my kids were little, like I always found, like, if I went to their sports, I never got to really sit and watch their sports because I'd be at the park with the babies or whatever. And I finally realized that if I hired a 12-year-old to come with me, I could sit in my lawn chair and watch my kid actually play sport while the 12-year-old was at the park with the toddlers. And that to me was like, that's quality me time.
Oh yeah. Totally.
So it's what we consider to be our me time. And I think if you need the traditional stuff, if you need the massage, if you need to go sit at a bookshop and flip through magazines, if you need a manicure, know what your needs are and do it. Those aren't my needs.
Yeah. No, I love that. Make sure that you understand what your me time looks like and then prioritize that.
Yeah. Really and don't let other people project what they think you should be doing to be healthy. And
that's such a huge issue, right? Whether we're like you said, identifying or trying to figure out what our me time is, or setting goals for ourselves, right? We're so bombarded with what other people are doing and what we think we should be doing based on all the media that we consume, where we end up setting these goals for ourselves or setting these expectations for ourselves and not following through with them, giving us this feeling of like failure, right?
Totally.
Like, that's not what you wanted in the first place. That's just what you wanted. Right.
Or it's what you thought you wanted, or maybe like you're sort of being told. And I think through COVID, I mean, social media could always be a little bit, I'm a big fan of social media. I have a big presence there. I love it. I love connecting with people. It's a great way to market your business as well. There's so much good of it. But I think also what happens too, and I do feel like this has been more so through COVID, is that, people are seeing what other people's lives are, but they're seeing that highlight reel, right? So, I always say perfect relationships and perfect children and perfect businesses exist on Facebook status updates and movies, but nowhere else in reality, right? So I think, to your point, Robin, like, we think we need to do these things because we've got this perception of that reality for so many other people. And it's just not, right? Like, it's just not. And I think that's the stark reminder we have to tell ourselves, is that, you're consuming this, what people are putting out there. And we just got to remind yourself it's the highlight reel.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever go through, I mean, I know you've been in business for so long. Did you always have this mindset, or do you remember being like an early entrepreneur, kind of going through these, or like, or at any point in your life where you fell victim to that, where you are like basing your goals and your wants and the growth of your business maybe based on what you were seeing?
That's a really good question. Look, I'm going to say probably not. I think where I really learned my lesson around not caring what people think probably happened more with my parenting. In my early days of parenting, like, at first I was like, oh, I should be doing it this way, or I should be reading this, or I should be following that. And then I realized a couple of things. Like, one was that I am a good mom, and I've got guts, and we all have them, and they're there for a reason. So we're probably okay to use them once in a while. But also I realized that I'm the one who is most qualified to, like, I know my children best. Here's a great example. I often tell this story about so I have 6 kids, right? And I remember quite a few people being like, how do you do one-on-one time with them all? And I was like, one-on-one time? Who does that? Is that a thing? And then I started thinking, oh my gosh, we we're not doing this. Like, are we going to be paying for therapy later because they don't get one-on-one time? So then I decided I concocted this whole plan, and each child was going to have one-on-one time on a Friday night, and they would take turns. So one Friday night, it would be like me or Daddy-O with one kid, and the other parent would be with the other five. So I was like, that's good. They'll have their one-on-one time. I won't have to pay for their therapy later. So sat them all down and explained this to them. I said, we're going to have like kid-parent date night. And they're like, okay. And then I said, are there any questions about this? So one little hand went up and said, Mama, can a brother or sister come on my date night? I was like, and then another one said, can the whole family go on my date night? And I was like, you know what? It was so contrived. I know when my kids need me to, like, I know when I'm like, I know when I'm tucking and I'm like, dude, you said something at dinner tonight that I just want to revisit here. Or it's like, hey, I'm going grocery shopping and you need to come with me because we need to have a little chat. And that, you know, like, I don't need to make some big thing up because other people told me what my family's needs are. I know what they are.
Yeah.
So I felt like I kind of learned that lesson early on, in that way. And I think it does apply to business and other parts of your life in general, right?
Yeah, totally. That's really cool that you have your kids oh man, I mean, I don't have kids. Michelle has one son. But I mean, I'm sure that I have a lot to learn from children. If my dad has taught me anything. So I come from a family of 4, and my parents always say, like, we have learned the most from you guys. Just like, it's cool.
Love it.
And that's also why kind of the rush for me to get you on a podcast today was because, you know, I thought we could do a little family day theme as well, with Family Day coming up, because obviously family is such a huge part of your life, and so is your business, right?
For sure.
It's also very good for our listeners because I'm sure that if you have a kid that goes to camp, school, that you definitely have Mabel's Labels in your home, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So Mabel's Labels is kind of a niche. Did it start out that way as a niche? And then what was it like starting out for you?
Well, yeah, it was. So it was something that was started because we noticed a product missing from the market. We had young moms, we had kids going to daycare, nursery school, even play dates, and everybody had the same stuff. And everybody was like using permanent marker and masking tape and that sort of thing. And we were like, not so pretty. Maybe we can do better. Maybe we can buy something out there. And there wasn't really anything out there. Yeah. So we thought, well, maybe we should create it like good entrepreneurial mamas. You know, we did our research. We started. Did I ever think I was going to be a label maker? Like, no. And this was one of those things that just, you know, happened because, you know, just that product was from the market.
Yeah.
But the other reason too, because at the time I had a 3-year-old son who was diagnosed with autism, and I wanted to leave the traditional workforce because I needed to have some flexibility to create an amazing therapy program for him. I turned my basement into a therapy center. You know, I really needed to shift. I'm a recovered lawyer, as we say. So really it was those 2 reasons why Mabel's Labels came about. And it was the product missing from the market, a gap, filling a gap, trying to make moms' lives easier, trying to make our own lives easier. Yeah. And then also the catalyst of my son's diagnosis and having to do that pivot. And boy, both the business and the kid have turned out great.
That's great. And, you know, we always talk about this, and it's kind of an underlining theme in all of our podcasts is the hustle mentality, right? And you touched upon something when you said, you know, you started your own business because you needed more flexibility at home. And why we talk about that is that this hustle culture has become this insane, hardcore, driven workforce where we're promoting hustle, but do it healthy. Right?
Yeah. And I think that's so important because, you know, it's not a badge of honor to burn out or to ignore your family or to ignore to be dropping balls everywhere. I think for so long there was that badge of honor around being, so busy and so tired. Like, how is anybody winning?
Yeah. Oh, I said that I think I don't know, for our last podcast, we like to ask people these questions because it's such an ongoing conversation for us. And I think I said straight up, I'm like, it's one of my biggest pet peeves when people are bragging about how busy they are.
Totally. And I actually laugh to myself, like whenever people tell me, and I'm like, are you kidding? Like, you know, you're talking to here.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, really?
Which is so refreshing to hear that coming from your mouth, because exactly, you've got 6 kids, you've got a business that's
Huge following, people that are expecting you to like post on social. You have like people pulling you in all directions at all times.
For sure, but I do think a really good like self-care thing, and I do this, is I do have boundaries and I do say no.
Yeah.
You know, like I actually have like a 10-point checklist before I go to an event to make sure it's worth me going, because you know you only have so many hours in the day. I know, and like the other one, like with when I always say, like, when they're terrible at saying no, we need to practice more. I always advise, like, you know, we have these great big to-do lists. How about writing out a do not do list? Like, what are you doing that you shouldn't be doing? What can you delegate to a virtual assistant? What can you delegate something at work? What can you delegate to your child, to your spouse? Like, I want everybody to go and write a big old list of crap you're going to stop doing because you value your time.
Yeah. What are some of your daily non-negotiables? Like things that you have to get done, things that like nobody could talk you out of doing, things that like you value, that, and maybe they're not a daily, maybe they're just like regular things that you do in the week.
Okay, so I would say, you know, spending time with my kids, making sure that they're okay and making sure everything's on track with them. Obviously fulfilling, like, I pay attention to what my goals are, like at work. I set them and follow them and check in on them and report on them. I try to get outside. You know, I try to move my body.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even yesterday, like there's not always a lot of time, but my kid is home from high school. So she's like, you want to do workouts? We threw on a YouTube and we did a 20-minute, whatever. 20 minutes. That's all it took.
Dance party. I did a dance party yesterday instead of my workout.
See, you can do lots of things. I mean, I was 20 minutes. My butt is so sore today, so it worked.
I love that. But so you prioritize movement, and do you move regularly? Are you working out? Do you have like a regular kind of workout schedule, or?
Yeah, look, I'm going to say not as good through the COVID. That's not true. It's just changed a lot. I was trying to go to the gym before. I've got these friends who opened up this really cool gym in Burlington, and I've been going there. Nice. But it is hard to, like, I do find sometimes this doing it online at home, it saves me a lot of time because I'm not traveling. And then my shower's right there, and I can just get ready. All my stuff is there, my clothes. So like literally like that, doing that workout yesterday, you know, and I was able to fit it in between, you know, like Zoom meetings, right? Like you can do these things now because I don't have to, like, I can do a Zoom meeting with my like workout clothes on and my hair in a bun, and they don't know that I haven't showered yet since my workout, right? Or like if you're just doing audio or whatever. So I feel like there's been a lot more flexibility. And also with the kids home, it'd be like, okay, they're on lunch. Well, let's go for a hike, or let's take the dog, or whatever, you know, you can do those things too. So in some ways it's been a big change in routine, but, yeah, I've been able to, I've been trying to keep up. Got to keep up on. I'm getting older too. I'm turning 50 next month. I'll have you know.
Come on.
Nice.
So yeah. So I gotta keep
like 29.
Oh, you're the best.
You started Mabel's Labels when you were 12.
I was 12. I was a very young entrepreneur. And a very young mommy, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Mommy of 6, 29. And so how does this, how do these non-negotiables play into the performance and focus of your job? Like, do you? Yeah,
well, I think, you know, you talked about the word flexibility before. And I think that is something that with entrepreneurship, you know, in those early days, it was so important for me to be able to do the things for my son and make sure I was around for the program and to get everything. So having that flexibility is great. And I think it does, like I said, I can work out between, you know, Zoom calls or podcast interviews or whatever, right? Like, so I do feel like through COVID and through entrepreneurship, there is flexibility, but I do try to remind people who are starting a business that flexibility does not get your work done for you. So, you know what? It was great when my kids were little and I was like, okay, I want to go and volunteer for the school trip to the apple orchard, or I want to go to the park this afternoon with the toddler, and I could do those things. But you better believe I was on my laptop at midnight doing the things that I wasn't doing at 2 p.m. So, you know, I think when people, I think entrepreneurship sometimes gets romanticized and, you know, everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to have this. I'm going to be able to do all the things. I'm going to make all the money. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. But they're not really seeing all, like the fact that, you know, we worked out of a basement that stunk for like a good couple of years. I was pregnant with my fourth kid. And I would leave at 2 a.m. and get up at 6 a.m. and raise my 3 other children, one who had autism. Like, you know, those were not glamorous days, but people, you know, think, oh, well, look, and it's like, no, I've been in line for 17 years for this.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, like this is a very long overnight success story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, you know, people who are toe dipping or thinking about, you know, making a side hustle, I think you have to be realistic, right? Like it's going to be a lot of work and it's a lot of grit. It's a lot of grind. It's a lot of hustle. Whenever I have a speaking engagement, they ask what song I want as I enter on stage. It's Every Damn Hustling. Like that is the song I go with because literally. So I think, you know, this flexibility thing, just remember it is great for me. It was a wonderful choice. It worked out well for me. It worked out well for my family. It worked out well for the business. We learned that women can be productive at very strange times and in very strange places. I mean, you know, we can change diapers and change the world at the very same time. So, you know, it was, I just remember that flexibility is great, but it won't get your work done for you. You're going to work your ringer off.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. And it's refreshing to hear that because you're totally right. Like it is this romanticized idea growing a business, and then you're going to have all this time to do things that you know, that you wouldn't otherwise do if you had a 9 to 5, right?
Right.
Just because you're an entrepreneur and stuff like that. So what, it's interesting that you kind of talked about like that, and you like, would you associate yourself as a hustler? Like, do you find that like that hustle and grind that got you to where you are today? And do you like being in that category?
Look, I am like that. Like I like action, and that's why COVID's been hard. I'm very extroverted. I like going out. I have lots of friends. I have, you know, lots of family. I get a lot of energy from that stuff. So yeah, I'm not like a sort of chill at home and put on like, I'm not like, I don't have a show like, you know, now more because like my kids are teenagers, so we'll like have a show together and they're obsessed with Parks and Rec at the moment or whatever. So we'll do that. But like for me and my own to just, I'm on the move. I always have been. Like when I was at university, you know, I was also the head don of the residence. I ran an off-campus dawn program, and I worked at the Student Legal Center, and I drove the student affairs van for students with disabilities. Like and I was on student government, and I always had 1,000 things going on, always.
But I think what's important to note is that it like, this is what invigorates you. Like it's what gives you energy, right? Doing all these things is not draining you. It's not sucking you of your energy and your productivity. It's actually putting things back into your cup so that you can do more.
Exactly. And you need to know yourself. Like I have a sister who's a year older, and she's an introvert, and she, you know, lives alone and, you know, doesn't have kids, and she's a great aunt and loves kids, but, you know, she'll be like, if you push it, she's like, remember, I chose not to have children for a reason. Like, I think of all her nieces and nephews, there's like 12 of them, she's maybe changed a diaper. Like, she has her limits, right? But she comes to my house, and like, you know, if all the kids are there, and like pre-COVID times, the pool's full and there's in and out, and she's like there for half an hour. She's like, I'm going to go home. It's going to take me 2 days to get my energy back because you guys all just sucked it out of me. Because she's somebody who gets her energy from not that, whereas I'm like, the more in and out, the more action, the more, I'm like that house, that makes me happy.
I love that. And I love this conversation because that is really important for people who are listening to take away that, you know, and it's really important to tie this conversation back into what you said there. You have to figure out who you are and what works for you, because doing what Julie does is not going to work for you and it is going to burn you out, and it is going to drain you, and you won't be able to be as productive as you want to be if that's if you don't have the same personality at the end of the day.
Right. Exactly. You need to know yourself and honor it and be okay with it. Accept it. You don't have to be like me. Like, nobody needs two me's. We don't need two Robins. We don't need two Michelles. One's plenty, I'm sure, of all of us.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. No, I love that conversation. Michelle, did you have anything to kind of add on to that?
Yeah, I just wanted, well, not specifically that conversation, but I just wanted to touch upon one thing with you. And I think, so, I've done my research on you, and you're very passionate about women's issues and mentoring young female entrepreneurs. Is that kind of become because it's where you came from? Or what's the driving force behind that for you?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've just always been very passionate about women's issues. I was that kid at university who would organize a Montreal Massacre memorial service. I think just social justice has been something. I was raised by a dad who was very socially minded, and he was very political and drew us in. So there's a lot of role modeling around that. We were very taught to be very very humble and to give as when you can, as much as you can, whatever you can. I ended up, when I was doing law, I was doing feminist legal study. I was working at a women's center behind bulletproof glass because of the men in these women's lives, our clients' lives, and, doing training orders at court. Like, that was sort of like, I thought I was actually going to be a legal aid lawyer for my entire life because I love it. Like that was kind of the space I loved being in. And I love now having the opportunity to raise my children in a feminist household and see how passionate they are. As the kids would say, they're woke, like they're involved in so many things. Like they've been going to pride parades since they were little. Like, they now organize things like, one of my kids will organize a queer student association at university, and they just do so many amazing things.
Amazing.
It makes me super proud. I actually was bragging on Facebook last week that my son, who's in third year University of Guelph, he got an 88 on his feminist philosophy paper.
That's nice.
Yeah. So I think, I love my community. And like, as Michelle mentioned, we connected through Burlington together. And, I think, giving back is something that you have to do. I mean, I've learned so much in these 17 years. If I can talk to young entrepreneurs, that's why I mentor through the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs and a bunch of other places and speak at, events, because like, why not teach what you've learned? Like, I'm all about the collaboration, and why would I hold all the information myself if I can make it easier for anybody else? Lord knows I'm going to. And I do think that with the skills that I have, that it's my duty to contribute. I'm on the board of the Seven Music Festival in Burlington and a few other things that I volunteer at. And it just, I feel it's a responsibility that we'll need to take on.
That is so great. That's very cool.
Good. And it's funny because as you're talking right now, it was just like this weird moment. I'm obviously on my computer. I had 20% off heart labels at Mabel's Labels. Come up, and it was just like this weird
perfect
moment.
timing.
Oh, my marketing team is the best. It's like they know. They might know, actually.
That is so great.
So everyone right now can get 20% off heart labels at Mabel's.
You got it for Valentine's Day and Galentine's Day.
I love that. Oh my God, yes. We are going to, let's wrap this up. We always do like an ending question, just a fun question for our guests when they come on. What would you pick as your very last meal?
My very last meal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go nuts.
Before I go in the electric chair, I would probably, okay, so now I'm going to reveal a little something else about me. I'm not a big foodie. So I don't actually seem to enjoy food the way most people do.
It's okay. I live with one.
Do you?
Oh yeah. He will eat chicken and sweet potato for the rest of his life.
Right? Yeah. Now I like it. Like, I love like Indian food. I love, I love it, but I don't I would never go like, that's why I'm not really a great cook, because I feel like that's a lot of time for something that is okay. You know, like if I'm on my own, I'm like, I'm quite happy to have a bowl of cereal for dinner. So I mean, I've got friends who are foodies, and I mean, they go to sleep dreaming of recipes and poring over books and looking and trying new recipes, and it's just not me. So, yeah, not too fussed. Yeah. It could be anything you serve up. As long as I didn't have to cook it myself, I'd be happy.
That's a great answer.
A bowl of cereal.
Yeah, we'll give you a nice bowl of like Apple Jacks, and
there you go. There you go.
I think that was my favorite cereal growing up, Apple Jacks.
Well, we had, and my kids are the same. In our family, we are only allowed to have sugar cereal. We're at the cottage. Okay. Cottage treat. And for us, it was honeycomb.
Oh, so good.
I could eat that all day.
Right?
All day.
So good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. Julie, one more thing. Where can people reach you if they want to learn more, whether it's a woman entrepreneur that's listening and they want to maybe contact you and ask for some advice, but also website for moms and parents who can purchase from you?
Awesome. Well, yeah, if you go to mavelslabels.com, you can see our amazing products, but you can also see our great community. And I blog there. We have a blogging community there on our website. We also have a very active Facebook page. We have over 200,000 Facebook fans. So we're always sharing great content there and having great conversations. And you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at cole.julie, at Twitter, Julie Cole. Yeah, pretty easy to find. And, you know, I really appreciate the two of you, having me on and having like such a great conversation and really thoughtful questions. I appreciate that.
Oh my God. Well, you're welcome. Thank you so much for being so open to this. And I mean, we'll have to have you back in the future.
Definitely. Oh, and also I will mention with International Women's Day coming up, I am speaking or emceeing or doing things at about, 8 or 10 events. So that will be posted as well. So if anybody's looking for some fun International Women's Day things to do via Zoom, I can provide that.
Maybe we'll tune in, Michelle. We should probably tune into some of those.
Yes, you should.
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Julie.
Talk to you soon.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
All right, that concludes our episode 3 with Julie Cole. We are so excited to have her on the show, and we hope that we can get her back on the show again in the future. Like always, if you guys are listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button so that you can tune into future episodes when we talk to other amazing girl bosses and any of our FGB shorts. If you're watching this on YouTube, awesome. Just hit that subscribe button below so you can also be updated with any other YouTube content that we put out along with our future episode podcasts. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.